Good afternoon. It is 2 o'clock, and I would like to call the December 5th meeting of the Oklahoma City Water Utilities Trust to order. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the November 21st meeting. Are there any questions or comments from any of the trustees regarding the minutes? Is there a motion for approval? We have a motion and a second. Please vote. And it passes. Next up is the consent docket. A number of items on the consent docket. Several items to be put out, plans and specifications to be advertised. Several change orders and amendments on it. A couple of legal items on it. Are there any items that the trustees would like to pull off for individual consideration on the consent docket? Seeing none, is there a motion for approval of the consent docket? We have a motion and a second. Please vote. And it is approved. Next up is a concurrence docket. There's one item on the agenda, and it does not have any Aquit funds in it. Are there any questions or comments on that item? Seeing none, is there a motion for approval? We have a motion. We have a second. Please vote. We have no emergency construction contracts on today. Items for individual consideration. Item A is an amendment, amendment number 2 to the service agreement with the City of Oklahoma City and Inframark LLC for operations and maintenance of wastewater treatment facilities, solids management, and industrial pretreatment, estimated at an annual cost of a round number of $18 million. Mr. Browning?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. John Vanden, our division head over wastewater quality, is here to give you a short presentation on this item.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the trust. This is a pretty substantial, as far as length of document amendment in front of the trust, so we wanted to kind of put a short presentation to cover some items and answer any questions potentially about the amendment that you might have. One of the things that I wanted to point out, as we are now through the 7th year of this current contract, we still have 3 more years on this current term, is to kind of show a short snapshot of the lifespan of this contract from all the way back to 2016 with the previous contractor to our current O&M contractor, Inframark, and to take a look at, when many times we're asked in questions, why do we contract out services and do different things like that? One of the biggest benefits that we've had, of course, is some is transfer of risk. Second, to me, is cost control. If we take a look at over the last 7-8 years of this contract, to see that, over those 7 years, a 2.6% increase over that span of the contract moving into 24 is pretty good, from a fiduciary responsibility of controlling costs and moving those things forward. So just kind of wanted to show the snapshot over time. Your orange is the maintenance cap, which is the money that is used for maintenance and repair, and then the blue section is what is actually the true contractor's O&M costs inside of what they have. And of course, our dotted line then is just simply our trend line. It stands, when this went out to bid in 2017 and the new contractor came in, there was a substantial savings when it went out to the street and came back in at that time. And, then over time, you can see the escalations each year to where we are and then projecting, into the future. So some of the things we're going to, have that are in that amendment and to talk about here today is, what some of the current market conditions are doing, to even our contractors. So there are 3 substantial parts in this amendment before you. Every year there are methodologies and information in the contract to do reconciliations for flow, power, and solids. These are the variable items that are typically outside of the contractor's control. It's what we're sending to the plants, and so it is, the method in there is to calculate based on flows going up or down in some cases and what those costs are. So those are outlined in this amendment. In addition to that, the 2023 base fees that we're taking a look at is there's an annual adjustment that's in the contract, and with the market conditions this year, we took time to do an in-depth analysis of costs And this even included, our contractor was willing to do open book on chemicals. We've seen 300% increases in chemical costs for chlorine, and we've seen substantial increases for the commodity cost of our chemicals across that basis. In the last 2 years, these first 2 years of this term of the contract, Infomark and our contractor has absorbed those costs. So the additional adjustment is to set forth a rate that is substantiated so that they can sustain these increased chemical costs into '24 and into the future. And then the final thing is moving to a 24/7 operation at our Deer Creek and our Chisholm Creek wastewater treatment plants. Those plants are currently only staffed 8 hours a day. And so the rest of the time, while there's some automation at the plant, they're very manually operated plants. And Deer Creek actually has 1/3 of all of the compliance excursions in our system occur at the Deer Creek plant. It is only operated for 8 hours. The other 16 hours of the day, the plant has settings, but overnight, between our storm events, between changes of flow and those things, without an operator there to react to, the plant sometimes, will then result in some of our compliance activities. So going to a 24/7 operation is an effort to reduce that, increase the safety, as well as an operations necessity from cost control methods and those kind of items. We are doing a scope change in which we are taking in-house some of the pre-treatment services that are in the contract. So we actually are eliminating some scope from the contract and adding the 24/7 operations. So that is netting a savings to us as we change that scope. And finally, just as we're looking for cost savings, in that in-depth analysis, we took a look and discussed with our contractor, what are you doing to control your costs? What are you doing as our partner at these plants to help us work through these? And so with that, Infomark's approach is in basically 4 different buckets of things like operations and maintenance. They showed us examples of where they have brought capital in the means of equipment from other projects or other locations that may not be in existence anymore that they've brought to increase their efforts. They've showed us, increasing the skill sets of their maintenance technicians, things of that nature, so that they can do more work in-house and potentially not go out to outside contractors to perform certain types of work. Power consumption efficiencies, continually analyzing the power consumption that is used at the plants so that we're consuming the minimal amount that we can to still operate the plants. Then staff utilization and efficiencies. Again, even though we're looking at going to 24/7 and increasing the number of staff and hours, we expect to, with that staff, be more efficient so that when we have emergencies or compliance issues and things, instead of it being overtime, it's straight time because of having shifts. So there's some savings there. And finally, the chemical usage efficiencies. We take a look at, in the wastewater plants, you look at 3 things: disinfection, dewatering, and odor control. 3 main buckets of chemical. And every year they evaluate the actual usage against the baseline conditions and adjust accordingly as they can. So with that, if there's any questions.
Any questions? Great presentation, appreciate that.
Thank you.
At one time, this was one of the top, probably 5 largest contract operations wastewater contracts in the country.
Correct.
Is it
Correct.
still?
It still is.
It still is.
It still is. There are about 15 of comparable size across the country, and this is in one of the top 5.
Thank you. All right. No questions? Is there a motion for approval? We have a motion and a second. Please vote. And it passes unanimously. Item B, do we need to go into executive session?
No, we do not.
Okay. Therefore, there's a resolution. Do you want to, Craig, you could just kind of go over the scope of the resolution? Obviously, there was a house built that infringed on a sanitary sewer easement.
Yes, there was a house built in 2020 that overlaps our sanitary sewer easement by approximately 8 feet. We have been trying for a long time to work with the developer and the builder to rectify that so that we can properly operate and maintain our sanitary sewer line. We have not been able to get them to be responsive to our requests and to relocate the sewer line. The sewer line is set up in such a way that there is less than 5 feet of operable room should we need to get in there and repair the line without damaging the property owner's property.
So from like roof line to roof line?
It's actually in the back, but they have a canopy and a patio coming off the back, and the distance between that and the back fence post.
Okay.
So the house is physically located 2 feet inside the easement, and then they have a porch, the house foundation. So the porch and the overhang are essentially on top of the sewer line.
Okay.
And the sewer line is about 8 feet deep, so I'm worried not as just for the ability to access, it's the overburden on that line that could cause failure in the foreseeable future.
Okay. All right, so you're seeking a resolution to initiate legal proceedings.
Yes, a similar, actually the same resolution was approved by the council this morning as their part of the joint resolution.
So are there any questions for Mr. Browning or Mr. Keith on this issue? Is there a motion to approve the resolution, which is B1? We have a motion and a second, and it passes unanimously. Items from trustees, anything this brisk afternoon? All right. Mr. Browning, General Manager reports.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A couple of items. First item, lake levels, they're pretty much unchanged. They're pretty stationary at this time of the year. Maybe we'll get a little bit of rain. Draper's filling a little bit. Hefner's going down a little bit, but we might get a little rain in the next few months to change the status of the lake levels. And then the second thing, the most important thing, I would like to recognize Mr. Freeman's birthday today. So happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
And that's all I have.
All right. I'm not aware of any citizens to be heard. Being no further business, we are adjourned.